know what Barbershop P do, pick a side. And LG, he do the same too, pick a side. In Stack City, he gon' need you, pick a side. Who are we? Pick a side. Who are you? Pick a side. You know what Barbershop P do, pick a side. And LG, he do the same too, pick a side. In Stack City, he gon' need you, pick a side. Who are we? Pick a side. Who are you? Pick a side.
Hoodlamb, Hoodlamb Apparel.
Pick a side. It's mandatory.
It's mandatory. I was waiting on it.
Hey, get off my Zoom.
How's your Zoom? I got the end button.
This the team. Pick a side. Back at you again. Barbershop P. My guy Stack City. Cuzzo. LG. How y'all fellas doing?
Good.
I'm good, bro. I'm good.
Yes, sir. All right, man. You know, this is Pick a Side, and you know, we very diverse with it. And this is a subject that a lot of people have been, you know, asking us, telling us we should, you know, dive into a little more. So my question is for y'all is about the culture. We all know the crab in the barrel mentality. We all know, you know, all those things that goes on in the Black community. And my thing is, and what I really want to know and like want to discuss is, what do you guys think will take to change the culture, as far as us supporting each other and having each other's back and really putting a good foot forward to make that change? Because it's like, it's been too long and we preaching the same stuff. And I don't get why we just won't support each other like we should, bro. Like everybody does it but us. Like everybody.
What you mean by support each other though? In what?
Far as like just business, everything, like with what we do, like, you know what I'm saying? Just in general, like we don't support it. Even with Pick a Side, like we got family and friends right now that probably subscribe, watch the episode, nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, so when it comes to just support, and whether it's starting up a business, whether it's just, you know, just whatever venture, whatever in life that we're trying to do or trying to start, you know what I'm saying? Like, why is it so hard for us to get behind it, but until it like really becomes successful or something like that, and it really takes off? Like, but why do we not support each other? If we supported each other more, maybe it would take off faster.
I think this is a deep question, and there's a lot of directions that you could go in. And maybe I'll go in a couple of different directions, but I'm gonna start out with this one. I think a lot of times, and I'm not just speaking to our culture, I'm just speaking in general. I think a lot of times people don't support someone else in their venture, particularly when they're doing something similar to what they are trying to do, because they don't feel like, or they might not feel like they can get to the top if someone else gets there first. You know what I mean? Or something along that mind frame or mindset. Like if they get to the top, you know, that lessens my chance of getting there. You know, so rather than support them, when I haven't made it myself, let me focus on me. You know, and then once I get where I'm going, you know, then maybe, you know, I can see what everybody else is talking about. As opposed to realizing that the way we get there, or a way that we can get there, is for everybody to help each other out. You know, and maybe other cultures have done a better job at that than we have, you know, and I think a lot has to do with our history in this country, which is why I said this can be a deep question and go a lot of different directions. But with that being
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, with that being said, we're gonna get into it a little bit. With that being said, though, you know, I think it's definitely an issue that we brought up a lot, you know, amongst each other in our culture, without seeing a lot of change, at least from the standpoint that you're talking about. You know, so it's a big conversation, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight. And eventually we got to do more than just conversate about it. But long term, I think that's part of what Pick a Side wants to do. I think we want to have a platform where our platform is not just our platform, but it's a platform for others as well, so that they can have a launching pad into doing what they want to do. Not when we make it, but while we're making it. You know, so they can make it at the same time as us, and we all can make it together. You know what I mean? So that being said, like I can't speak specifically to the mind frame of other businesses or individuals. But what we can do is be the example that we want to see in others. So I think with regard to pick a side, I think that's part of our mission, to be that example that we want to see others emulate, so that we can show, hey, it can be done. Like we don't have to sacrifice our potential of having success just because we help somebody else out before we even get to where we're trying to go to.
Right. Great answer.
Yeah, so I agree with a lot of that. Like I think in the culture is within the culture, we can be very competitive. And we can also be jealous. So like you want to make it to a certain place, but you need your family, you need your audience, you need your friends to be able to support you. But your family, your audience, your friends also have their own dreams that they're chasing. And so sometimes it can get competitive in that way. Well, I'm trying, especially like if you're in a similar field, like what City was saying, well, I'm trying to make it too. So how can I support you if I'm trying to get there myself? And then it's the thing where, and I've actually seen this happen in real life, where you might be in the same field with somebody, but you're doing a little bit better. But when we was all at a certain place, the relationship was on point. But once you did a little bit better, jealousy, communication lacks, you know what I'm saying? I like listening to this pastor named Pastor Michael Todd, and he said that his church goes by hot. It's a hot church. They're honest, open, and transparent. And I believe to build each other up in the culture, we have to be more honest, open, and transparent with one another. We need to make sure we're not circled around a bunch of yes men, and we need to be able to hold each other accountable. But I think at the end of the day, it's a matter of the heart. Like, you either have the heart to be like, if I make it, we all make it, or you have the heart that says, I'm just about getting mine. Everybody else, you got to figure it out on your own. But I do like the platform of pick a side, because I believe already in our youth stages, we have already, as we're climbing, we're making sure we're partnering up with other people, with them climbing as well. Because, at the end of the day, it's our culture, it's family. And my heart says I want everybody to win. Now, I know everybody don't have that mindset because people are competitive, so when you're competitive, you don't want everybody to win. You know what I'm saying? You want to be lonely at the top, or you want to be the only one that's considered a champ or a king or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So I think at the end of the day, I think it's just like an individual personal motive as far as how do people impact the culture together or not. I don't know if that makes sense, but
how you feel about it, P?
I agree with what y'all saying, but a lot of stuff I feel like we got to kill it. We got to kill a lot of those, it's lonely at the top and all of that stuff. Why can't we all be here together? Like I'm not trying to be funny, but like I don't hear those cliches in the white community, in the Asian community, and the black, and you know what I'm saying, the whatever. Like I don't hear those cliches and stuff. Like, so I just don't understand. Like, and I get exactly where y'all saying and where y'all coming from, but why can't we pull each other up together? Like if I make it, I can show you how to do it, and you can take this ride with me. Like we can do this together. Let's build something. The best thing that you can invest in is people. That's the best thing you can invest in. Like, and it's crazy because we have our culture is so messed up. We have all those BS cliches to me. Like that don't have to be the case. And I feel like that's why, and if you look up statistics, a little fun fact, I think we're like have the most buying power, most spending power in the world. I think we're like number 1 or 2 as a community, like African-American, whatever, black, whatever they want to label us as. We have the most buying power in the world, but we're at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to ownership because everybody, markets to us, they tap into our culture. They want to get that black dollar, quote unquote. You had so many examples back then that was more than just Black Wall Street, man. It was a lot of different areas and stuff like Black Wall Street. But we had our own railroads, we had our own stores, we had our own schools, we had all of this stuff. Even now, you got all these millionaires and some even billionaires that's famous and rich and that's standing in the streets with their fist up, like Kwame Brown said. But it's like, you have the money and the resources to make change right now, so why not do it? So are you really for the cause, or are you just talking about it and making something look good for social media or for your audience that you're following? Like, let's make real change here. So I feel like overall, man, we have to make a change. Like, I had a conversation with this Jewish guy, and he was so blunt with me, bro. But I respected it. He was like, you know, the problem with your people is, he was like, yeah, your people, straight like that. He was like, y'all will go spend in our community, y'all will go spend with everybody else, but will not spend $1 with your own community. Before we spend $1 in anybody else's community, we make that dollar rotate in our community however many times, and then we spend outside of our community.
Why do you think that is, Pete?
Because I just feel like the mentality, because like Stack was saying, going back to the mentality of like, even you can even take it back to slavery. Like, it's a deep conversation. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the house nigga, you know, talking about these people and telling, you know, master, oh, they doing this and they doing this. And then even when it comes to business, bro, like, we're so behind with business and financial literacy. Like, we don't really know what money is. We don't know what fiat money is. We don't know what paper money is. We don't really know what stocks and bonds is. Like, we really don't know this stuff. So it doesn't get passed down in our community, right?
Let me ask you this.
When we do get it, we're selfish with it. We don't want to show you. I've had more people outside of our community show me and teach me things about finances and stuff than people in my own community. And there's plenty of people in our community that knows this stuff, but they feel like, oh, I got it for myself. I had to learn, I had to do this. Okay, bro, but start spreading the wealth, start spreading the information, so maybe we can build something.
Yeah, that's real, bro. Let me ask you this though, based on something you said. You was like, we have the most spending power, right?
Yeah.
But we're at the bottom of the totem pole as far as ownership.
Right.
Like, how do we spend within our own community if we don't own anything?
That's my point. We have to start using that money and investing and making our own businesses. We have to, like, there's Black banks, there's Black credit unions and stuff. Like, there's Black brands and stuff. And I always use this as an example. Like, okay, back in the day, you had FUBU, you had Iniche, you had Fat Farm, you had all these like Black clothing brands. And then that wasn't cool enough. We tried to go start wearing Gucci and Prada and all of that stuff. And these companies that don't even really care about us and don't give a dang about Black people or our community, and we spend money with them and keep making them rich instead of taking that money and wearing your boy's brand or somebody that's Black owned brand like it's designer. Like, we have to start investing in our community, and maybe we could have more ownership and more business because we have the money. Clearly, we have the money.
So here's the thing. One, like, how do we do that? And it's more rhetorical. It's more for, you know, people to think about than for us to right here on the spot. Like, how do we do that? But at the same time, number two, we're so invested as a culture in things that you kind of alluded to this when you was talking about the football example and whatnot. Like, we're so invested in things that don't benefit us that it's like we've swam so far away from the shore, we don't know how to get back. You know what I mean? Like what we deem is cool and what we deem is acceptable and like the end thing or the standard within our culture, like, we don't own a lot of that stuff, you know? So to go back and support a Black business, you know, that doesn't have the same standing as what we're buying, you know, like, and then go into our community wearing that, especially if you're a young person, if you're a kid, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to, like, as a parent, you know, like, you don't want your kid to have to suffer, right? If you're a parent.
Right.
So if I'm buying my kids shoes and jeans and shirts and hats from a Black owned business, right? And then he goes to school, like, but everybody else has on Nikes and all these other, like, all this other gear that's not Black owned, then he's going to get ridiculed, right? He's going to get ridiculed.
Right.
No parent, no parent wants their child to go through that. So it's like the point I was just making. We're so invested in stuff that we don't own because we deem it acceptable that it's almost hard to like turn around and say, all right, let's do something about this. Let's reverse course, you know, because we're not on the same page enough as a people. Like we, let's be all the way real. Like one reason we have so much, we influence so much, right? One reason that we have so much spending power, like our dollar means so much. One reason our dollar means so much is because like there's a lot of influence there, you know, like there's a lot of influence behind like the things that we're invested in this culture. You know what I mean? Like hip hop, like as a culture, it's huge, right? It was started by who? By black people in the black community, right? And look how big it is now. Look at the influence it has on young people, right? You look at some of your top sports, all right? If we're gonna be 100% real about it, like when you look at your LeBron Jameses and people like that, like when you look at your Michael Jordans from back in the day, when you look at like who did they sign with? They didn't sign with a guy who has a black-owned shoe company. You know what I mean? They signed with who they signed with, and then like now we want to get that. You know what I mean? So like it's a big conversation. It's a lot that has to be tackled, and it starts at the top, it starts at the bottom, it starts everywhere in between, because like we're off from that mentality in so many different places.
What about, okay, remember I was saying honest, open, and transparent. What if, you know, a black owned company did, because you know, in culture, in our culture, hip hop culture, we big on fashion. We big on what's on our feet. We big what's on our head and what logo we rocking. Right. So what if, honestly, what the black owned folks are doing, what if we don't think it's dope enough? You know what I'm saying? What if we? But listen,
we decide that. We decide that though. We decide that
stuff dope. We make it dope.
Right.
We as the culture make it dope. Like, and the piggyback off what City was saying, like, we have to change the mentality. Like, imagine if these celebrities, that's influencers, started wearing black-owned stuff and started doing that like they did with the FUBUs and the Fat Farms and stuff like that. It would take off. That's all it takes for them to put it on. Like,
I'll give you a good example.
Nikki posted a picture in like some Alexander McQueen stuff or something one day, and literally the catalog sold out in like that, just because Nikki wore it. So imagine if Nikki wore a black-owned dress business or a black-owned heel business or whatever the case is. It's gonna take off because she has that big of an influence and that big of an audience. But like LG said, like, because of the culture, and like you said, we've swam so far away from that. It's not cool. It's not the it thing.
Let me ask you this, P.
You know, we have to have the it thing.
Let me ask you this, P. We had a relatively recent example of that, and what we do as
LeVar
a culture.
Ball.
LeVar Ball. There we go.
LeVar
there
Ball.
We go. We had a
Everybody
relatively
hated him.
Yeah, everybody like
was crazy for wanting to have his own shoe brand.
Like we had kind of big, not kind of, we had some big name celebrities go out there and purchase his shoe, like as expensive as it was back then. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. And it wasn't as much, it wasn't as big of a rush to do it. More so, we laughed at him. Right? Now, part of that had to do with his personality.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say.
But it's also the mindset, though.
Yeah, it's a personality thing, but at the same time, like, we got to get beyond that because like the vision was there. You know, the vision of what we're talking about, supporting somebody from the culture, it was there. Like, and even though he might not have been the leader we wanted him to be, like, at the same time, he got himself to that position, or the Lord allowed him to get in that position. You know, he was allowed to get in that position to where he could create his own product, right?
Right.
He could promote it like the way he did, you know, through his gift of gab and everything like that, and his son's talent and abilities. And he was right there on the doorstep. But what do we do as a people? Like, we clown.
That's a lot, though. I mean,
we ridicule him.
I understand what you're saying, but okay, like, for example, have you ever heard someone say, "It's not what you say, it's how you said it"?
Yeah.
So what
but
you
people
say
literally hated him
point.
for picking up his sons.
So what you say can be on point, but your presentation might be different. So, like, for example, even though he got to that place, like City was saying, likability plays a role too. And so even though he did what he did, a lot of people, like he ruffled a lot of feathers with the media, with fans. And then
But
also
why?
when it comes from an athletic perspective, you usually want to wear somebody's stuff who you think is going to be great or who's pretty good at their sport. So I think all of that might have played into why that happened the way that did.
But let's be real. Why do people hate LeVar Ball, bro? Because that man bigged up his sons, and the fact that he was an outspoken black man that wasn't scared to say it was on his chest. People don't like that. Even our own people don't like that. It's people hate Floyd Mayweather. It's majority of black people from what I've seen. I don't never see no white person or nothing talking about Floyd like the way black people do.
No,
I don't. I'm gonna be real with you. And
I do.
I really
like
don't.
Real bad.
But I've heard so many black people, like even Floyd said it. He was like, "Man, I'm fighting against a guy from another country. Y'all won't even go for me, and I'm American." You know what I'm saying? Like
a lot of it goes to
plays a role though. Like Floyd Mayweather, but he also carries that. He carries that I don't care if you like me kind of swag. Like, you know what I'm saying? As well as
he had to get to that
like,
point.
They got that swag, for example, LeBron James. LeBron want to be liked by everybody.
When you're the first person to do something, they hate you, bro.
They don't care. Like KD, he don't care. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so I think likability plays a part in your presentation as far as what you're trying to brand.
Let me ask you
I
this.
just think when you're the first to do something, they hate you.
Listen, let me ask you this. We like what defines, like I know what defines me and what I want to do and what I want to be viewed as. You know what I mean? Like I'm a Christian man. You know what I mean? And I have principles that are grounded and rooted in my faith, right? But like looking at it beyond that. And for me, it's hard to look at it beyond that. But if I'm just going to step outside of myself for now and speak from a world perspective, right? Look at it from a worldly perspective. Then I would ask this, who defines or sets the standard of what acceptable and likable is? Because I would venture to say that, like, do we even define as a culture what is deemed by the owners of these big businesses what acceptable and what likable is? You know, because you talked about how like P said he doesn't hear, like, it's mostly us that talk about like Floyd Mayweather, right? Is that what you said?
From his perspective. From my perspective, it's different.
Yeah. So you're saying your perspective is different?
Yeah, my perspective is different. Yeah.
So from a world,
but I mean,
go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
No, but I mean, you go ahead with your point. I see what you're saying.
Now, what you going to say? Go ahead and interject.
No, I was going to say, I mean, I do know that our people root against Floyd too, but I do know the other people root. I know those people that hate Floyd too. That, you know, that's not our people. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead. P, you about to say something?
No, I was just saying, agreeing with LG, like what he's saying.
So from a worldly perspective, like I would venture to say, as I was saying, that we don't even define like what acceptable and likable is, you know, because like why from a worldly perspective, why isn't Mayweather or LeVar Ball, like, why aren't they likable and acceptable?
Because like P say, for some reason, if you allow black man, like, think about it, T.O. took forever to get put in the Hall of Fame because he was loud and outspoken, not because he wasn't good in football.
But what I'm saying is,
there's something intimidating about that.
What I'm saying, I don't know why. like we're not the owners of these big businesses and these media companies that kind of set the standards of what acceptable is, right? But if we were, and the standard were LeVar Ball and Floyd Mayweather, then those guys would probably be deemed as more likable, right? Because we would set this, if we owned the outlets and the businesses that defined what acceptable.
Exactly.
But when you go to an interview for a job, why do you dress up?
Presentation.
Yeah, but who set that standard? Who set that standard? Why can't the standard be
the company?
No, I'm talking about on a broad scale. Like any job you go to, most people are going to dress up for, right? Any interview you go to, for the most part, people are going to dress up. If you're an adult, why can't the standard be I show up to this job interview? Why can't the standard be I show up in swim trunks and that's it? Like, why can't that be the standard? Like it sounds stupid now because it's not the standard. Like, but if it
It's
was
not
the
knowing.
standard, like, what if the standard was I go swimming in a 3-piece suit and I show up to interviews in swimming trunks? Like, what if it was the reverse? The only reason it's not the reverse is because we set the standard a certain way. You understand?
Yeah,
What I'm saying?
we touched on that. We already
No.
know that goes
Yeah.
back. Like we already
But
know.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying
That's
is,
deep.
No,
what
I
I'm,
agree. But I also think the
what
media
I'm saying is,
and like you
hold on,
saying,
let me finish this
the
point though.
powers that be play a big deal in that.
Yeah. That's the point I was getting to. So if we were owners of these huge corporations, if we were owners of these media outlets, then maybe we could then affect change. Because maybe then, like the standard, speaking outside of myself, speaking from a worldly perspective, maybe then the standard of what's acceptable changes. Maybe LeVar Ball and Floyd Mayweather become the standard. Maybe a loud black man is what everybody wants to be, rather than what everybody ridicules. But because we're not in that position, and we really never have been in that position in this country, and it has a lot to do with our history in this country, like that's not the case. So like Pete started out, now we got this crab in a bucket mentality, and we swam so far away from the shore, we don't know how to get back because we've attached ourselves so much to products that aren't owned by us, that when we try to go back and support us, like we're going to get ridiculed in our own communities.
But I also think that the reason why, like I love hip hop, so when I listen to rappers, it almost seems like them being able to buy something or wear something that you cannot pronounce because it's that much money. It's almost like that's their view of success. You see what I'm saying? So like to be able to say that I wear this or I can buy this, it's not black owned, but because I'm from the hood, you know what I'm saying?
You're speaking to my point though. You're speaking to my point. Like if we had those hard to pronounce,
right? That's what I'm saying.
The standard.
I'm just saying. I'm just pointing that out. Like you know what I'm saying. So I mean, I guess what I'm saying is the mentality and the heart of it. Like everybody, mental and heart is at different places. So like somebody's mental is, okay, cool. I could own somebody. I mean, I could support black owned, but yo, I'm about to go get this. Ain't nobody where I'm from got that before. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody made it there before, or lived there before, or bought this before, or drove this before, or wore this before. I'm about to be the first.
But listen, even that mentality is a mentality.
Has to change.
Yeah, it's a mentality that has to change. Number one, and number two, like within our community, those people who have made it to that point that can do that, they've set the standard in a way that's like what we chase now. You know,
yeah,
we chase,
like he said.
We chase
so
that.
Once we see our heroes,
yeah, like we chase
certain stuff. You know,
we
what I'm
chase
saying?
that.
Okay.
We chase that rather than what we're talking about here, rather than chasing something that would support and benefit us as a culture. You know, so like, I mean, even when we do set the standard on a small scale, we set the standard in a way that's counterproductive to us making it as a culture, as a whole, as a community, like us all uprising together.
Right.
Yeah. Because like even I guess we're in here because I don't want to go over too much, but going back to what City said, a great example, like with the media and the powers that be and the people that really have the power and the control, like they can influence stuff so much because most of the media outlets are owned by like the same. It's like 5 or so major media companies that give you all your news, give you all your movies, that really influence everything, like Viacom, Disney. You know what I'm saying? Like we know the brands. And think about, okay, somebody like Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson came out and had a huge checker past, had domestic stuff, all types of things that nobody knew about. Like, and he was the most beloved person on the earth at one point. And soon as Mike did something that the powers that be didn't agree with, he became one of the most hated people in America. They started exposing the domestic stuff, the drug abuse. They started doing all of that stuff. Even like the case, the rape case and all of that stuff. And some of this stuff happened before they put him on such a high pedestal. Like they knew about it, but they waited for him to have his fall to push all of that stuff out there and destroy his character. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's how strong the influence is. Even with so that right there is a strong thing. Like we have to get a seat at the table. Like we have to get a seat at the table ultimately for the culture to change. Even when, like I said, going to LeVar Ball with his baller brand, big baller brand. And like I said, I always say with y'all, he's the reason why the G League's doing what they're doing now. He started having his tournaments and having like guys from the high school and all that stuff level going and playing for his little league and all of that. And it made the G League start going out here and paying these boys and stuff. Like he literally made, like to a certain extent, changed the face of the G League and stuff just because of what he was doing. And he gets zero credit for that because people hate him so much. But it's all about the likability. Like you're saying.
A piece of what you said also makes me think of another point. Like we don't have the secrets as business owners, as businesses, Black business and business owners. We don't have the secret sauce that it takes to get to the top. Like we don't know the formula to get to the top. Like people always bring up somebody like Oprah, and there's always exceptions to the rule. You know what I mean? There's always going to be exceptions to the rule. But for the large part, we don't have the formula or the secret sauce to get to the top. And if we do, while we're on our ascent to the top, you know what's going to happen? Somebody who does have that secret sauce is either going to steal our idea, they're going to take our idea and run with it, or here's what they're going to do next. They're going to see that Black business or company rising, and here's what they're going to offer them a check.
They're going to offer you to buy.
Let me write this. Yep. Let me write this check.
Dre.
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, once you see them zeros,
no. See, that's the thing though. That's the mentality we're talking about right there. I mean, I know you're joking. I know you're joking. Like I know you're joking.
Hey, but
I know you're joking. But listen though,
real talk, money talks.
No, money talks, but how much? Here's the thing though. Money talks.
But imagine if Dre still owns Beats by Dre.
Listen, how much more money would you make how much more money would you make if you decline those checks now, so that 20 years down the road you're in a much better position? Like it's instant gratification.
But that's the whole point of the conversation we having.
People like a lot of instant gratification.
Like a lot of times when people get to that, like a lot of times when somebody from our culture get to that level, like what we're talking about, they didn't have nobody, you know what I'm saying, to like be like, yo, hold on, honest, open, and transparent. You know what I'm saying? Yo, hold on, I know that money look good. Like, where's that person? You know what I'm saying? Where's that person that's telling them? Because you got to think about it. A lot of people that get that opportunity, like if they coming from the gutter, like if they coming from nothing, then the money's gonna speak loud. And at that time, you know, if they don't have nobody really in their ear giving them that,
you don't have to be from the gutter to still like bow down to those commas.
No, I know, but what I'm saying
like
is
anybody
from our culture, a lot of our examples, like a Jay-Z, for example, like people that's really done made it, you got to understand where they came from too. Like, so when they get that first opportunity, you know what I'm saying? Like NBA players that get drafted all the time, that's the first thing they say. Like, man, you know, me and my mom, that's all we had was each other. Like, so they leave college early. They leave early because they know, I can get an education. I can finish playing for Duke or Carolina or whatever. But right now, the NBA got them zeros, and I could change my family's life. Like, money talks, bro.
Yeah, that's a different conversation. The sports side of it, I think, is a different conversation.
Yeah, sports that's a little different. But
money talks in all aspects.
No, yeah, it do. But like what Stack's saying is like, bro, like we have to change that mentality. It's like owning your masters with music. You know how much more money you make if you can actually own your masters and own your music, opposed to having a label own your music, giving you a portion of it or a royalty check. Like it's a huge difference. Like I said, even like the Dre example. Yeah, you made a lot of money, Dre, but imagine if you still held on to Beats by Dre. Beats by Dre still bumping. They still doing their thing. Like the commercial advertising and stuff is out of this world. You could have did a partnership with Apple if that was the case. Like, don't, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not a believer in like selling off. Like, what if pick a side get to a certain point and then somebody just offer us comments that we're not making right now? But eventually, guess what? We're gonna make those comments. That's probably why y'all offering us those comments. Because you see the worth in it.
Threaten. Yeah, you don't want that threat. You want to eliminate the threat. You want to eliminate the threat before the threat gets there. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I'm gonna let y'all have those conversations.
Nah, but you're making good points though, bro. But I'm just saying, like, that's my mentality.
Listen,
like,
bro,
I'm
like,
low-key playing devil's advocate.
It's hard to have. Like, I understand the point you're trying to make. Like, if your mama and your grandma ain't never had nothing, it's hard to say, hey, mama and grandma, just don't have nothing for another 15, 20 years, and we can have even more. And you can have even more.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're trying to say. I understand what you're trying to say, but like at the same time, like that's what sacrifice is all about for the greater good of the culture, for the greater good of your family, for the greater good of your own pockets, or however you want to define it. for what God wants you
And
to
then,
be. You know what I mean? That same concept
Right.
applies whether you a Christian or not. You know what I mean? Whether you talking about what we talking about in terms of this business ownership, or whether you talking about some other type of field, like some other type of area in life. So yeah.
So real
Go
quick,
ahead,
what's
P.
the very first step? What's the very first step we need to take then to change our culture
You
mentality?
talking about
What's the
us
first step?
mentality, or you mean black people? Like you mean us pick a
Yeah.
side?
No,
Or
black people, our culture, mentality. What we do first?
mindset, bro. Stop
Mindset.
hating on each other. Change the mindset. Change the way you think.
but
Like, and that's on every level. Like, even in life, like, don't sit around and like think about the negative stuff. Like, your words and what you think is so powerful. Like, people don't understand that. Like, if you walk around telling yourself you broke, guess what? You're gonna be broke. If you
Here's what
walk
we're gonna
around
do.
telling yourself, you know what I'm saying, I'm this and that, that's what's gonna manifest in your life because you're speaking it.
Here's what we're gonna do. We only got a few minutes left. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put a pin in this. And if I know I'm kind of going off the cuff here, so decline if you don't feel like, you know what I mean, it's something we should do. But I would like this to be an ongoing conversation. Like maybe this be part
Definitely.
one to an ongoing conversation. And maybe like we talk about it more on another episode. And then maybe after that we invite guests who know more about, you know, the business ownership side of things. Like this right here can be the start of a
Definitely.
platform, how to like break that glass ceiling and go past just ownership,
Right.
but into bigger aspects of ownership. You know what I mean? Like so
Right.
so we can start advancing as a people, as a culture. And because here's the thing, if we advance as a culture and other cultures might not even realize it, I don't know. I'm not a part of other cultures in the way that I'm a part of the Black culture. But if we advance, it's the same thing like our people. If one of us advances, then all of us can rise together. If we as a culture, if they take their foot off our neck and we as a culture can rise, then that'll probably help all the cultures rise as well also. You know what I mean? Rather than viewing us as a threat. Everybody is competitive, LaRon said. LG said, everybody's competitive, you know, when it comes to that type of mindset. Well, cultures are competitive too amongst each other. You know what I mean? So if we as a culture started working more together, like with other cultures and this culture and that culture, but like at the same time, we got to start somewhere though. So since
I'm glad you said that.
I'm a part of this culture. So this is where we can start, you know, and then maybe like, this is such a big thing that maybe we can start it, you know what I mean? And like our kids, maybe like our kids can carry it on, and then maybe like our grandkids can start working with other cultures because we've broken a glass ceiling. You know what I mean?
I like
But
that.
let's put a pin in this right now. Hey, since we're talking about, you know, supporting the culture, go ahead and shout out that hat you got on your head. It'll just lead us right into the sponsors.
Hey man, you already see it. Hoodlamb, man. HODDLAMB. Hoodlamb Apparel on Instagram. Hit him up. Get some gear. Check out the inventory. He gonna lace you. And this is Black owned, by the way. We support around here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good conversation.
Pick a side,
fellas.
man.
Hey, we
It's
told
mandatory.
we told you slowly but surely we're gonna get a little deeper and a little deeper. You know what I mean? But part one,
We
right?
diverse.
Part one. All right,
Yes,
fellas.
sir. Love y'all,
Good
boys.
talking to y'all. Love
Great
y'all too.
conversation.
Yep. We out.
You.